Hey there everyone, it's Scott and welcome to another video. This time I'm going to be doing a review of a particular film that came out in 2000. It's a very unique film. This film definitely brought out the best in a particular actor that went for it. Played a very complex character, a man that on the surface has everything, but on the inside he's masquerading as a serial killer. A man that has the compulsion, the need to kill, despite his very wealthy status, the fact that he has a fiancée, a solid group of associates that are considered friends, a lot of material possessions. The man has everything. But just like that, while he can be calm, cool, and collective, he can have that very cold, intense stare. And just like that, he can take you out like that. It doesn't matter who you are. He's a man that has the characteristics of a human being, but he's not there. I'm kidding. I'm basically trying to imitate the narrator in this film, which the character is Patrick Bateman, and I'm pretty sure you might know what that film is. That's of the satirical psychological horror film American Psycho. This here is the Blu-ray. This here is the uncut version. From what I understood, they added a little bit more nudity to this version, and glad they added a little more. Doesn't hurt. But yeah, anyways, the Blu-ray itself, the picture quality and sound quality are pretty solid. And that was a freaking moth. Freaking moth. How dare he interrupt my review? Damn it, mouth. Get the fuck out. Anyways, back on the subject, folks. It has a few features on here. It has deleted scenes with optional director commentary. You have a commentary with the director and writer. And you have a featurette called The 80s Downtown. So, yeah. Not bad for a film that I paid only like $5 for like several years ago. But getting to the crew and cast, the director here is Mary Harron. She previously did a film before this called I Shot Andy Warhol. And the producers are Edward R. Pressman, Chris Hanley, Christian Solomon. You also have the screenplay was written by Mary Harron and also Guinevere Turner, who actually appears in this film as Bateman's acquaintance. It was also based on a novel, which is the self-titled film American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And the film stars Christian Bale as our main character, Bateman, Patrick Bateman. And you have Willem Dafoe, who plays the detective Kimball, who basically interrogates Bateman throughout the film. You also have Jared Leto as Paul Allen, who basically, is killed by Bateman's character, supposedly. You also have Josh Lucas as one of the associates that Bateman hangs out with. Same with Matt Ross, Bill Sage and Justin Theroux, who would go on to be a writer for Iron Man 2, and he's acting in a whole lot of other projects as well. And some of the other cast members, you have Samantha Mathis, who plays as Courtney, an affair. Bateman has an affair with her. You also have Chloë Sevigny as Jean, basically Bateman's secretary. And of course, Guinevere Turner as Elizabeth, the acquaintance of Bateman's. And of course, believe it or not, Reese Witherspoon as Evelyn Williams, Bateman's fiancée. And this is the umpteenth time that I try to record this review, because I feel like it's kind of somewhat of a little bit of a difficult film to review, but I'm going to try my best to sort through all this. And basically, the whole idea of the plot, it basically takes place in the late 1980s, 1987 specifically. It revolves around Patrick Bateman's life. He's a very wealthy investment banker. He tries to keep up, appearances, at trendy restaurants, with his fiancée Evelyn. He has a circle of wealthy and shallow associates, and he actually kind of despises them, or at least most of them. He tolerates maybe one. And he basically describes his own, material accoutrements of his lifestyle, like anything from his morning exercise, his beautician routine, designer wardrobe, expensive furniture. He has a very extensive music collection, which he likes to, describe on kind of a, have an opinion and commentary basis. So yeah. But what fuels the fact all beneath that, has a very compulsive need to just kill. And he can't help it because he has that ego, he has that drive, he wants to be the best at everything, whether it's his job or just get rid of the world of certain people that he just, has a very just a disdain for. So yeah, and this all facilitates whenever his associates are at the workplace. They're all showing off their business cards, and apparently when he sees Paul Allen's business card, which is played by Jared Leto, and the sleekness of the coloring and the design of the card, this is what spirals Bateman to start killing extensively. Like he murders a homeless man and a dog. He actually encounters Paul Allen at a Christmas party. And apparently Paul Allen actually mistakes him for a different guy and always refers to Bateman as a bit of a wuss and just a total wimp, and pretty much. And he eventually, he convinces, Paul Allen to meet with him for dinner later on. They're at this restaurant, and basically Allen gets drunk, and he's eventually drunk as a sculpt when he gets back to Patrick Bateman's apartment. He eventually dresses up in a raincoat. And there's a song that's playing that's by Huey Lewis. Eventually he chops at Paul Allen like several times, tries to dispose of the body, and then also goes to his apartment to make it look like he is on vacation in like London or something. Then eventually, the disappearance of Allen, that's when Willem Dafoe's character comes in and interrogates Bateman throughout the film. And during all that, apparently Bateman eventually invites two hookers, which he names Christy and Sabrina. They get engaged in a menage a trois. He basically he actually does some physical harm with some surgical instruments that he has. And they eventually leave his apartment bloodied and mistreated. And then by the time he's back at the restaurant where he's with his associates again, Luis Carruthers reveals a new business card, and Bateman tries to kill him. But apparently Lewis, who's revealed to be bisexual because he is with a woman, but he has some kind of attraction to Bateman. He's surprised, shocked, and eventually leaves disgusted. And he eventually tries to invite Jean, his secretary, which is Chloë Sevigny's character, for dinner. They basically meet up at his apartment. He actually tries to kill her with a nail gun, but then it's interrupted by a message from Evelyn. Eventually, Bateman tells her to leave at some point. And then Bateman encounters Kimball at lunch, tells him that he's not really under suspicion for the Allen disappearance. He eventually encounters Christy again, but tells him things are going to be different because he's meeting with an acquaintance of his. And that's Turner, of course. Eventually, he kind of has Bateman has some similar menage a trois with them, but he actually kills Elizabeth, which is of course Turner's character, and chases Christy down all bloodied up, naked, with a chainsaw. Eventually, she tries to flee, but eventually, while she's fleeing down the stairway, Bateman sees her and eventually actually throws down the chainsaw and actually kills her. And eventually Bateman actually ends up breaking off the engagement with Evelyn, and he goes through a weird scenario where there's that ATM, tells him some weird stuff like "feed me stray cat." He tries to feed it. The woman sees it, causes foul play, and shoots her. And then there's another sequence where the police follow him. He actually takes out the cops, and eventually the vehicles explode. He eventually goes into a different building, the wrong one, kills the security guard and the janitor. Then eventually goes to a different building, which is apparently the right one, and leaves a confession for his lawyer saying that he killed a shitload of people. He definitely meets with Kimball again, who still remains suspicious of him, but he can't really prove that, he's responsible and that, Allen was murdered. And supposedly it's possible that Allen was spotted in London after the alleged murder took place, but the witness was not really sure. And possibly supposedly he went on vacation. Bateman tries to, go to Allen's apartment because apparently he had a lot of corpses there supposedly, but the place has been already vacant. It's on sale. He pretends to be a potential buyer, but the old lady, that the realtor, tricks Bateman into believing that no one's there to buy the apartment, and cryptically tells him to go away and never come back, pretty much. And then he goes to meet his colleagues for lunch. He ends up he actually meets with his lawyer there. But I think before all that, Bateman's starting to, crack and break down, tries to talk to Jean about it, and he just is going through this. His mind's just really cracking and just really going insane, and he just kind of laughs it off at the end. Then eventually, I think before this, I forgot to mention, he breaks up with Evelyn, kind of like an over-top scene, moving on. And then apparently when he's trying to talk to his lawyer, convincing him that he did kill a lot of people, including Paul Allen, his lawyer thinks he's joking, but when Bateman presses it further, he simply says it's not possible because supposedly the lawyer had dinner with Allen in London. And by the end of it, he feels like the confession pretty much meant nothing, and that's pretty much the end of it. What I do like about this film is I like how it's kind of deceptive. Like, it looks like from the cover, it looks like it's your generic psycho flick, Living the Knife, but it's something more than that. It has elements of satire, and I like how it's presented in this film. Like in the very first, whenever he first, is talking with the bartender, she tells him it's a cash bar, and basically Bateman tells her, well, "You're a fucking ugly bitch. I want to stab you to death and play around with their blood." And apparently, it's not really sure if she didn't hear him or that it was all in his head or something like that. Because supposedly the movie tries to act like maybe it was, saying that maybe the murders were all in his head. But apparently I would later learn that the director did not intend for that to be the case. It's quite possible he committed most of these murders. The one I think that maybe not be possible is when he chases down Christie with a chainsaw, because you'd think with the chainsaw being loud and Christie banging on doors trying to get everyone's attention that she needed help, no one answers it, so I'm thinking either it's empty or you think they would be answering you. You think, what the hell's going on? But I'll get to the ending of that. But yeah. What was I saying? Shit, I lost myself. But the satirical elements in the fact that Bale carries this film, it's whenever he when he's having dinner with Paul Allen, he and Paul Allen's pretty much drunk at this point. He's like, "Did you know I like to dissect girls and that I'm totally utterly insane?" It's just the dialogue and the character makes this movie pretty much. And then when he takes him back to his his own apartment, supposedly he starts playing that 80s song. I like how all the 80s references the bands like Huey Lewis, Genesis, and even Whitney Houston, and then the song Pure Energy appears in one of the nightclubs that they're at. So I like how the 80s setting was used, because it was in the era of Donald Trump, and then the whole idea of capitalism and being successful, dressing well, and having that really tidy and neat. Like whenever he first encounters Kimball, he tries to get him a sparkling water. Like he even has to put a coaster underneath it, which is one of the little satirical elements. And then I'm getting away from it. But anyways, back on the subject of Paul Allen, he plays that song "Hip to Be Square," and he's actually getting on the raincoat, and he's like, "Are you wearing a raincoat?" And he's like, "Yes, is that a raincoat?" And he's like, "Yes, it is." And then when he sees the newspaper, he's like, "Do you have a dog like a little chow?" And he's like, "No, Alan." And then when he's trying to explain a little bit of the Huey Lewis song "Hip to Be Square," he's like, "It's not about this. Hey, Paul." And he starts chopping away at Paul. He's like, "Try getting a reservation now at Doris's now, you fucking bastard." And does it several more times by chopping away at him. So yeah. And then he disposes of the body. And then there's that scene when he has that menage a trois with the hookers. Whenever he's telling this one particular hooker, Christy, he's like, "Get on the bed so that Serena can see your asshole." And then she orders Sabrina. So he orders Sabrina to dance a little bit. And then when he's getting the camera ready, he's like, "Sabrina, just don't stare at it, eat it." And then he starts, when he starts to engage in the sex with the hookers, he starts looking at himself in the mirror, starts flexing his muscles, because that Patrick Bateman has those sociopathic and narcissistic tendencies. Like he's always going to have that ego, and he's going to think he's always going to be better, which is why he kills Paul Allen, and why it leads us to this one other scene here, which I think is quite underrated. Whenever he encounters Louis, and when he's about to choke him, and then of course when Louis thinks it's a sexual advance, Patrick is like shocked and taken back and actually kind of disgusted. He actually goes to the sink across and starts washing his hands with the fucking gloves on them. It's just hilarious. And Louis is still talking to him about this, and Patrick's just totally ignoring him. And then when he starts walking off, Louis is like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I have to go and return some videotapes." And then I also thought the breakup scene with him and Evelyn, he tells her he wants to break up and it's not going to work. She doesn't take it seriously at first, and then eventually when he presses on further. She starts to cry, or at least fake crying it. And he's like, stop this bullshit. Come on. Stop this crying. It's not going anywhere. You're making a scene and all that. And she asks him, where are you going? And then, of course, he used that same line. I have to return some videotapes. I like how it uses this line. I just like the idea of, Bale is a real serious actor, and he's very intense in his performances. And he does it here, but he goes so over the top. That's why it works so well. That's why the humor and the satirical elements work very well. And then there's that whole action sequence when he sees the text, feed me stray cat. He actually tries to feed the stray cat. And then the woman sees it and cries foul play, and then he shoots her. And the whole sequence is kind of over the top. I think that's one of the sequences that don't happen. But he's able to shoot all the police vehicle, he shoots all the police officers. Apparently, he's able to shoot at the car, and it explodes, and that's when it really gets to be over the top, and that sort of thing. But the ending of it, I'm just rather confused on. But I did a little more research, and apparently, I'm thinking that maybe it's because he's in this kind of rich, cultish environment, and since I'm thinking maybe his compulsion to kill was going out of control, and they discovered it. Maybe whoever it was that took out the bodies that were still at Paul Allen's apartment, I'm thinking they tried to cover it all up because, Bale is definitely a useful person in this society, but apparently there are monsters here, and while he can be considered a monster, and to be honest, overall, the character is quite unlikable, but you can't help but feel maybe a little bit sorry because it's a very well-driven performance by Christian Bale because he really committed himself to this role very well. And to be honest, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that it's very well acted. Bale really carries the film. He does the way he presents himself as a very egomaniac-driven type of character, but also has this very dark and kind of almost compulsion and the need to kill. It just starts to consume him. It starts to unravel, and he starts to really crack underneath it. Like, in a way, he does fear being caught, but maybe by the end he actually wants to be caught, which is why he left the confession. But the people around him don't really seem to give a shit and just pretty much ignore him. So, yeah. But anyway you slice it, this film is definitely worth a watch. It's definitely worth watching, mainly for Bale and the satirical humor and the over-the-top performance by Bale. He really brings it to light, and I can see why Mary Harron wanted him for this role. He really conveyed that performance very well. So, yeah, he definitely carries the film, and while the supporting characters don't do a whole lot, they're there. They do their jobs well, like Dafoe and Theroux and anyone else. They all do their job very well. So, anyways, I'm going to wrap this up soon. I didn't mean for this review to take on so well. But anyways, American Psycho is definitely worth watching. It's available to rent on YouTube. I recommend watching it. But either way you slice it, thank you for watching this review. Give it a like. Give it a share. Feel free to comment. And I'll definitely keep bringing out more reviews at some point. So anyways, I will see you later. Bye-bye.